On behalf of Akuno Senko for Bay, you know what I'm saying? Jay, where you at? We're trying to help our people elevate. Hope. HOPE. We're giving them hope. We doing what we gotta do, you know. Every day, one step at a time, man. We gonna make it happen. Helping our people elevate. Yeah. Sometimes I practice focus, thought, and meditate. I'm trying to come with other ways to help our people elevate and seeking knowledge, make me levitate. The lifted mental state is what results from how we orchestrate. This for the family's sake. Let's self-reflect and self-evaluate. And every day, make sure the steps you take, you calculate. Receive a master's fate. I know I can't exist without the hate, but that's okay. I balance that with higher self today. Success is on this way, and after that, my flesh can pass away.
Peace, family. I want to go into a young brother whose story is rarely heard of or who is not talked about. This 14-year-old boy who was falsely accused of something. But before we go into the story, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave a comment. But I'm going to give y'all the story of 14-year-old George Stinney. And this is from the Washington Post. And so it says it took 10 minutes to convict 14-year-old George Stinney Jr., but it took 70 years after his execution to exonerate him. And this was written by Lindsay Bayer. In March 1944, deep in the Jim Crow South, police came for 14-year-old George Stinney Jr. His parents weren't at home. His little sister was hiding in the family's chicken coop behind the house in Alcolu, a segregated mill town in South Carolina, while officers handcuffed George and his older brother Johnny and took them away. Two young white girls had been found brutally murdered, beaten over the head with a railroad spike, and dumped in a waterlogged ditch. He and his little sister, who were Black, were said to be the last ones to see them alive. Authorities later released the older Stinney and directed their attention towards George. The police were looking for someone to blame it on, so they used my brother as a scapegoat, his sister Amy Ruffin told WLTX-TV earlier this year. On June 16, 1944, he was executed, becoming the youngest person in modern times to be put to death. On Wednesday, 70 years later, he was exonerated. Stinney's case has tormented civil rights advocates for years. He was questioned in a small room alone without his parents, without an attorney. Gideon versus Wainwright. The landmark Supreme Court case guaranteeing the right to counsel wouldn't be decided until 1963. Police claimed the boy confessed to killing Betty June Benneker, 11 years old, and Mary Emma Thames, 8 years old. Admitting he wanted to have sex with Betty, they rushed him to trial. After a 2-hour trial and a 10-minute jury deliberation, Stinney was convicted of murder on April 24th and sentenced to die by electrocution, according to a book by Mark R. Jones. At the time, 14 was the age of criminal responsibility. His lawyer, a local political figure, chose not to appeal. Stinney's initial trial, the evidence, or lack of it, and the speed with which he was convicted seems to illustrate how a young Black boy was railroaded by an all-white justice system. During the one-day trial, the defense called for few or no witnesses. There was no written record of a confession. Today, most people who could testify are dead and most evidence is long gone. New fact in the case prompt Circuit Judge Carmen Mullen to vacate his conviction on Wednesday, 70 years after Stinney's execution. I could think of no greater injustice than the violation of one's constitutional rights, which has been proven to me in this case, Mullen wrote. The case has haunted the town since it happened, but garnered no attention when historian George Frazen, a local school board member raised in Stinney's hometown, started studying it some years ago. Since then, Stinney's former cellmate issued a statement saying the boy denied the charges. I didn't do it. Wilford Hunter and Stinney told him, he said, why would they kill me for something I didn't do? In 2009, an attorney planned to file statements from Stinney's family members, but waited because he heard a man in Tennessee who was not related to Stinney could offer an alibi for the youth. The man never came forward. It reportedly delayed the new trial, but it didn't stop it. South Carolina still recognizes George Stinney as the murderer. Defense attorney Matt Burgess told CNN earlier this year, "We felt that something needed to be done about that." New details started to emerge. Stinney's family claimed his confession was coerced and that he had an alibi that was never heard. That alibi was his sister, now Amy Ruffner, 77. She said she was with him at the alleged time of the crime, watching their family cows graze near some railroad tracks by their house when the two girls rode over on their bicycles. They said, "Could you tell us where we could find some Maypops?" Ruffner remembered them saying, according to WLTX TV, "We said no, and they went on about their business." Stinney was accused of murdering the girls while they picked wildflowers. Stinney's family fled their home. His brother Charles, who was now in his 80s, said in a statement, "They never came forward because they were terrified." George's conviction and execution was something my family believed could happen to any of us in the family. Therefore, we made a decision for the safety of our family to just leave it be, Charles Stinney wrote in a sworn statement. Yeah, I'm assuming this is his sister. Earlier this year, the case picked up speed. After a hearing in January, Stinney's family demanded a new trial. Mullen heard testimony from Stinney's brother and sister, a witness from the search party that discovered the bodies, and experts who challenged Stinney's confession. A child forensic psychiatrist testified this week that Stinney's confession should have been never trusted. It is my professional opinion, to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, that the confession given by George Stinney Jr. on or about March 24, 1944, is best characterized as a coerced complaint, false confession. Amanda Sales told the court, according to NBC News, it is not reliable. Still, some argued Stinney's admission to guilt was clear. At the time, a law enforcement officer named H.S. Newman wrote in a handwritten statement, "I arrested the boy by the name of George Stinney. He then had made a confession and told me where to find a piece of iron about 15 inches long. He said he put it in a ditch about 6 feet from the bicycle. Few other documents from that time exist." James Gamble, whose father was sheriff at the time, told the Herald in 2003 he was in the backseat with Stinney when his father drove the boy to prison. "There wasn't ever any doubt about him being guilty," he said. "He was real talkative about it. He said, 'I'm real sorry. I didn't want to kill them girls.'" Indeed, just 84 days after the girl's death, Stinney was sent to the electric chair. Today, an appeal from a death sentence is all but automatic. In years, even decades pass before an execution, which provides at least some time for new evidence to emerge. Stinney was barely 5 foot tall and not yet 100 pounds. The electric chair straps were too big for his frail body. Newspapers at the time reported that he had to sit on books to reach the headpiece. And when the switch was flipped, the convulsion knocked down the large mask, exposing his tearful face to the crowd. Frierson and Stinney's family maintained that they never wanted a pardon. There's a difference. A pardon is forgiving someone for something they did. Norma Robinson, George Stinney's niece, told the Manning Times, "That wasn't an option for my mother, my aunt, or my uncle. We weren't asking forgiveness. Instead, they saw what was called a writ of coram nobis. It means, in essence, mistakes were made." Now, I've seen the film on George Stinney. I'm going to give y'all a little snippet. The officer who arrested him was actually the person who killed these young girls and raped these young girls. But peace and love, family. I'm going to end this with the video of his execution. Well, not the execution, but just a little bit of who George Stinney was. And I'll catch y'all on the next one.